Okay, I think we slowly can start. My name is Gary. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's INA webinar, which is titled Case Study Insights from Denmark's Public Warning Systems. This webinar will provide an in-depth case study of Denmark's public warning systems, focusing on the development and application of cell broadcast technology for public safety. A few housekeeping matters before we begin. This webinar is being recorded, and the recording will be made available online later this week. Let me remind you that this webinar is automatically captioned in your language. To activate the caption, please follow what you see on the screen. Note that the speakers will be speaking in English, so please indicate English as the source language. And Sanna, I'm glad your screen seems to be working excellently right now, so that's great. Thanks, Sanna. If you have questions during the presentations, please use the Q&A section rather than the chat. I repeat, please use the Q&A section rather than the chat. That's easier for us to manage. And we've allocated some time for a dedicated Q&A session after the presentation. I'm glad to welcome our two speakers. We have with us Bjarne Sivertsen. Sorry for the pronunciation. I'm doing my very best, Bjarne. Deputy Head of Communications and Warning at the Danish Emergency Management Agency. And with us is also Ronen Daniel, Head of Utimaco Warning Solutions. Bjarne and Ronen, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Gary. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our session on the deployment of the cell broadcast-based public warning system in Denmark. My name is Ronen Daniel, and I head the Warning Solution Division at Utimaco. And together with me, indeed, is my distinguished customer, Mr. Bjarne Sivertsen, who is the Deputy Head of Communication and Warning at DEMA, the Danish Emergency Management Agency. But as you know, deploying a public warning system is a mandatory in Europe. But at the same time, there are still around 20 governments that did not deploy the system yet. So for them and for the related mobile network operators and for other governments in different parts of the world which plan to deploy a cell broadcast-based public warning system down the road, we have prepared this webinar. So in our session today, we will try our best to share with you the most important takeaways from our mutual experience in deploying the public warning system in Denmark. We will start with a very quick intro of our organizations, DEMA and Utimaco, share the project objective, key milestones, vendor selection process, and describe the high-level architecture that DEMA has selected for Denmark. We will also share how the Danish government tackled some of the topics with which many governments usually struggle, like how to cooperate on the very best way with the mobile operators, how to customize the CAP interface between the CBE and the CBC in a way that it will address the country's specific needs, how to work with Apple and Google to verify both iOS and Android device support, and other typical challenges. We will continue by describing a very interesting cooperation between the Danish and German governments on tackling cross-border emergencies. And Bjarne will also shed some light on his plans for the public warning system beyond cell broadcast. So as usual, we will dedicate the last few minutes for questions. So please feel free to ask Bjarne or me any question you may have on the matter, even on topics that we have not touched in the session. So thank you again for joining us, and let's start right away with a short introduction to DEMA.
Thank you. Yeah, DEMA, my agency is the state emergency agency in Denmark. We're not the ones responding to crisis on a everyday basis, but we are the agency that the municipality fire departments can call upon in major crisis or demanding crisis. They can call on us to assist. DEMA is an agency that educates conscripts in a 9-month period. We educate them the same as if they were in the military, and we train them to be firefighters or rescue specialists. That's a little bit of background on DEMA. For this matter, for alerting and warning matters, we're the agency that provides warning infrastructure for the only agency that can warn the dangers on a national scale, the police. For this matter, we have Sirenen, as we're going to talk about today, and the physical sirens, the rooftop sirens. Those two systems are the systems of DEMA, but we are actually not the ones using them. Yes.
As to Ultimaco, we're a global leader in cybersecurity, compliance solutions, and public warning systems. The company is headquartered in Aachen, Germany, and in Campbell, California, and has multiple subsidiaries and close to 600 employees worldwide. As to public warning systems in Ultimaco, being in the market for the last 25 years, Ultimaco is the largest CBC provider with more than 80 MNOs deployment across 2G, 3G, 4G, and standalone 5G networks. You can see our CBC deployment map on the slide here, when every line is actually a mobile network operator. In the last 3 years, we have also been deploying 6 government projects besides Denmark, in Ukraine, in Israel, in Qatar, Andhra Pradesh state in India, the city of Vienna in Austria, and very recently Latvia.
Yes. So in 2018, the EU decided on the European Electronic Communication Code, and as you know, it had this very significant Article 1110, stating that all the European member states should provide some sort of mobile-based warning system to accompany existing warning systems. And as a EU member, Denmark as well wanted and needed this mobile-based warning system. And after a year of pre-planning and pre-investigating, we started the project in 2020, and decided to make the specifications there, and that took the better part of a year before we could venture on to vendor selection, and in the end actually end up with a very good cooperation with Ultimaco. We started. We actually launched the project 1 month before our national test, and we'll get into that a little bit later. And so we launched it in April in April 23 and had the first national test a month later, and had the first real life warning 6 months later, I think. Yes. So when we started the tender, and we're going to get in a little bit more into that later. We knew that we had a very tight schedule, and we knew that we had to do some legislation in order to secure actually the government plans of having a national-wide warning system. And we also knew that legislation is a slow process, and we needed to have a very quick process in order to make our warning system done within the time frame. So we decided very early on that in order to have our 3 MNOs in Denmark on board, we needed to have them inside the project and not outside the project. So from the get-go, we said to the MNOs, each of you do your own thing. You need to provide a CPC to receive the warnings from the government CBE, but you can do it yourself within these parameters. So we gave them the freedom for selecting their own CPCs, and then we actually joined them in our project. As for the CBE, it was actually CBE selection. It was actually a bit of a surprise for us how it turned out. We had this request for information in 2020, and I think we had 5, 6, 7 companies giving us information, but in the end, it was actually very few who answered our call, and the only one that actually had read our tender with some degree of how do you say it, rigor was Ujimaco, and they were actually the only one who gave a complete reply to our tender. And since then we have had a very good relationship with them, and yeah, I think we're still developing that very good relationship. Yes. So today we have this setup with the left-hand side of this graphic is what I would call the government CBE side, situated at the Danish police. Well, it's not actually situated there, but it's operated from the Danish police. That the Danish police operate the CBE, and they write to these 3 MNOs CBC from their interface, and the CBCs from 3 different vendors then push out our alerts and our warnings. Yes.
Yeah, so as you can see, Denmark has decided to give the freedom to the operators to select their own CBC vendors, which we'll discuss later on. We also see that there are many other cases that the governments selects one central CBC for all the MNOs. There are pros and cons for every topology, but as to Denmark, they decided for the distributed one. A few words on the CBE and the CBC for those who are less familiar. So the CBE stands for Cell Broadcast Entity, as it is the management and creation alert tools for the governments and for the authorities. And the thing is that in the recent year, the CBE has developed, and today most of the CBEs in the market manage more than cell broadcast. So in Denmark, for instance, in the tender, they wanted cell broadcast and sirens and social media and a connection to the Galileo early warning system, emergency apps, later on TV, radio, billboards, email, and some other channels like location-based SMS. And basically, we think that moving down the road, every system that can be connected, even ATM screens, will be connected to the public warning system in the particular country. So what you can see here is real screenshots from the public warning system. You can see that the operators, it's on the map, they can draw polygons, they can draw circle, they can see KPIs of the system. And if I need to specify the most important qualities of a CVE, is first, in real emergencies, nothing is done in real time. So, I mean, people don't really draw polygons and compile messages in real time. It creates a lot of human errors, and when something really urgent happens, then people tend to be in panic, and it leads to a lot of mistakes. So to minimize these mistakes, everything is predefined, actually, prepared in advance. Templates, libraries, the alerts content itself in all the languages, everything sits in libraries, and in real time, the operators has only to fetch the right alert and send it for approval. The same is for the target areas. Polygons and circles are always available, of course, but a good system will allow predefined target areas. It could be cities, counties, villages, or any kind of predefined polygons. Sometimes, like in our CBE, it also supports layers. So if you want to define or send a message to all the schools in the country or all the hospitals in the country, you can do that as well. Customized workflow, which was very important for Denmark, and I believe this is what Diane meant when we said that we really read the tender, is that in Denmark is I would say, quite a cumbersome process, because there is one officer that fetches and compile the alerts, and there is a second officer that approves the alert, and a third officer that actually publishes the alert. So this is 2 levels of approval, and so this is the usual case. But there are some cases there is only one person who does everything, or in certain cases, in real emergencies, when there is no time, it is done automatically. So, I mean, fortunately or unfortunately, our system is deployed in 2 combat zones, in Israel and in Ukraine, and in these areas. And most of the alerts are sent automatically without human touch. So there are sensors that sense the alert, the system fetches the right template, defines the right target area according to the sensors, and send it to the CBC automatically. So all this different levels workflow have to be supported. Of course, multiple alert languages. So in Denmark, it was easy, only Danish and English. In most of the countries, we have 4 languages. If you're talking about India, there are more than 20. So it's very much country specific. Since most of the people who use the system are not technical, then the GUI has to be very easy and must be customized to the right organization. In Denmark, there is only the Danish police who utilizes or uses the system, but we have many other customers that are different organizations, different agencies, and all of them need to treat the CBE as it is alone, with its own users, its own permissions, and own organization. So a good CBE should support all this. A few words on the CBC. So cell broadcast has been utilized for emergencies because of a few certain qualities. First, it's real-time and location-based. It does not jeopardize privacy because we don't know who really got the alert or not. Only people who are in a certain area will get the message, as you know. It also works when the network is jammed. So in certain cases, like in 9/11, the mobile networks were down for almost 3 weeks. In the bomb truck in Marseille a few years ago, the networks were down for 3 days. And the reason is that when something really happens, then people are trying to send a text message or launch a call, and networks are usually jammed. Cell broadcast will continue working even if the network collapses. It does not exhaust network resources if it's planned properly, and it does not require data, which is very important in the developing part of the world. So this is something which is common for all the CBCs. Talking about Ultimaco CBC, the one that is deployed in free Denmark, it is compatible with all types of networks, 5G, 4G, 3G, and 2G, even though Denmark wanted only 4G and 2G. It supports all RAN and core vendors. We're talking about all vendors for BSCs, RNCs, MNEs, AMF. There are many, many of them. And some of them do not exist anymore, and sometimes it's challenging. We have all this knowledge after 25 years, and we can integrate our CBC to any mobile network. I would say 2 strengths of the Ultimaco CBC. First, it's in terms of performance. As I mentioned, the CBC is deployed in 2 combat zones, and for that sense, the performance should be very, very high. So we've been pushing the system performance envelope to the maximum. So today, the CBC can actually launch a message in less than 300 milliseconds when required. And in terms of geo-redundancy, which is very much required by all governments, I would say all our customers require geo-redundancy. We have a very unique geo-redundancy system, which works on an active way in the application level, which basically means 0 downtime. We don't have like a primary, secondary system. We have 2 systems that are working in parallel, and this means that the system is never down.
Yes, I'll just start by answering one of the questions in the Q&A. The question is, what reason made the government not choose location-based SMS complementary to cell broadcast technology? As I said before, we had a very tight time schedule, and that was actually the reason. Time and, of course, as always in these projects, money. So that is actually the reason why we didn't choose both. No, it's not the reason. It's one of the reasons why we didn't choose both of them. As Ronald said, we also chose cell broadcast because we have these examples of network congestion with location-based SMS. So that was another reason. Okay.
Bjarne, maybe you say something about the device compatibility in Denmark, since you tested it very thoroughly. And what is the percentage of compatible devices?
Oh yes, I'll get to that in a few minutes. Yes. At the time, at present time, we have three concurrent systems working. We have a demo system, a test system, which is called staging here, and a production system. And we actually use all three systems equally and a lot. In Denmark, there are not many catastrophes or large disasters. So we need the policemen on duty actually to do a lot of training for them to be familiar with the system when they need to use it. So there's actually a strict training regime for them to follow. I think they need to log on to it once a week. I'm not quite sure, but I think it's once a week. They need to do something on our demo system. So yes, that is why we have three systems, and as well as both our staging system and our production system also has cap features where we can see the actual cap common alerting protocol output, and we'll return to that in a few minutes. We can see the actual output from these two environments. Yes.
Yeah, so as to resilience, then as I said, both systems, the CBE and our CBC in 3, they all support geo redundancy. And as I mentioned, we utilize a very unique deployment in which all the dynamic information, databases, cache memory, etc., are continuously replicated between both sites. And the CBE connects to CBC. Any of the CBE connects to any of the CBCs, and the system is always in sync. This avoids any loss of data in any given moment, and then practically it means that we can promise our customers zero downtime in case of a problem or in case of predefined planned maintenance. Besides the two systems, we also prepare together with DEMA a disaster recovery site. So even though the two geography redundant systems are very far from each other, just in the very rare case that both data centers will be damaged, there is a disaster recovery system in a very remote place in which all the data and the configurations are stored in a secured location. And it will take us only 1 hour to recover from a fatal system error in the two geo-redundancy sites in order to recover the system completely. So a high-level look on the architecture. What you can see here is the two sites. We can see that we have two instances of the production and the staging systems. As to the demo, it's only in one site. We don't have a geo-redundancy. DEMA did not really require a demo geo-redundancy for the demo site for obvious reasons. All three systems are connected to the three mobile operators and also to other digital clients like portal and apps and everything that the DIMA will require in the future. And as Bjarne mentioned, the police is connected to the both CBEs and also us. Us, I mean Utimaco, since in Denmark it was decided that Utimaco will manage the service, and this is something that we will discuss later on.
Yes. So as I said before, we had a very good cooperation with the MNOs. We actually invited them into the project and gave them a seat at the steering committee because we needed them to we needed them to be on our side during the whole process, and they very much were. And it was decided in Danish law that the government should pay for all expenses, all reasonable expenses for the MNOs, in order to deliver a system that could communicate with our CBE. They have said, actually in the media after the launch, that was a part of the good working environment, and that is very understandable, of course. This fruitful cooperation during the project has led to a very good after launch working environment as well. So actually we can nobody gets upset, and everybody is positive when we call up one of the MNOs asking them for advice on our CAP standard, or on our intercommunication, and it's probably a bit expensive for the state to handle all these expenses, but I would say, from my point of view, from the business owner point of view, it has been money worth spent, because yes, it's it makes things go easier a lot. Yes. I've mentioned CAP a couple of times, and I will be talking a little bit more about it in a while. Perhaps you can recall this, Ronan. I think actually we mentioned CAP, Common Alerting Protocol, in the tender, didn't we?
Yes, you did.
Yes, I think we did. We have been focusing on this CAP protocol from the very beginning, because as you know, it is a standard, and we already had authorities in Denmark using CAP for warning within their sectorial responsibilities. So we knew from the start that CAP was used internally in Denmark, and we knew, of course, that it was a standard, and it was used internationally at the same time. So we pushed a lot for CAP as a standard for communicating, and I think it paid off. I'll get back to that in a minute. Yes.
Since CAP is rather generic, then using it for cell broadcast requires adaptations. and it's changing from country to country. And it is, let me give you a few examples. For instance, all kinds of cell water specific parameters. Do we need a repetition? What is the geographical scope of the message? For instance, Denmark is not a large country, so usually we send the message in countrywide scale. India is completely different, for instance. Channel selection, we need to let the CBC know which channel we are talking about. So you have to define a certain field in the CAP to support the channel selection. In terms of languages, then it has to be adapted to the data coding scheme, the DCS, which the CBC supports, because you need to decide whether you want to use a certain language like English or Unicode if you have some unusual characters that you need to support in your system. In terms of alert scheduling, do you need it or you don't? Update policy, which means let's assume that you sent an alert and a few minutes later you update it, and then you need to update it again. So the second update, does it relate to the previous instant? Does it relate to the original one? What fields can be updated overall? Statistics, you need statistic, you don't, what kind of statistic, in which time? What about historical message? Security, so everything, I mean, all the systems you are connected through VPNs, but do you need HTTPS? Do you need signatures, authentication? So all this, all kind of testing mode, all these parameters have to be reflected in CAP. So it is a lot of work to adapt the generic CAP to cell broadcast. It has its merits, of course, because as Vianney said, they have other systems that are connected via CAP, and very soon they're going to connect the system also to Cybern's over CAP, and Galileo uses CAP. So it's good because it's a common denominator. But in cases that Utimaco is selected to provide the entire cell broadcast system, the CBE and the CBCs, we recommend our customers to utilize our own proprietary interface, which is much stronger than CAP because it is adapted and developed to cell broadcast. So in that case, for instance, the CBE can see information on the mobile networks that usually only the CBC has. So usually we mix between proprietary interface to cell broadcast and CAP to other channels. But in Denmark, since we dealt with 3 different CBCs, then we didn't have any choice and we had to go for the common lower denominator. We've been working together with DIMA's expert on defining the CAP. It took us a few good weeks. We shared our experience, they shared their requirements, and we ended up with a very good CAP decay, I would say.
And it's a continuing process, actually, with the CAP DK. Every time we add on a new feature, we have to revisit the CAP DK specification, make sure that it is in there, and make sure that it is available to MNOs, Apple, Google. Yes, and that is a perfect bridge to working with Apple and Google. We actually had several meetings with them during the project and after the project has finished, because as Roland said, all these adaptations, national adaptations to CAP, they also, to a certain degree at least, needed to be reflected in the way Google and Apple respond to Google and Apple devices respond to the messages that they receive from the MNOs. and there's a lot of work put into to discussing with Google and Apple how do they respond when they get a message on this channel. How does the device react? Will it have sound? Will it have vibration? Can it be switched off? Does it need to be turned on? And such and such and such. You should think that this is actually a matter of just saying yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, but it isn't. It's a puzzle, and it's a puzzle evolving while you put the pieces down in the puzzle. I'm not sure that we're finished quite yet, actually, but yeah. Yes.
I would just add, Diane, that one of my takeaways here is that to try to work with Google and especially Apple in parallel to the project, because as far as I remember in Denmark, Apple was insisting to test the system or test the devices only on the final system when everything is done and everything is integrated, which actually extended a bit the process timelines.
Yeah, which... and you're very correct, because that is a totally different challenge, because as Ronald says, Apple wants to test, which is fair enough. They want to test on a system that is done. It needs to be finished, and only when they have finished, they will commit to send out a software update in the next software update window, where they enable all these settings that we have that we discussed with them. And if you look at it from their point of view, that is perfectly reasonable. But from our point of view, we need to test it, and we need to test it with Apple and a totally finished system. And then we have to wait 3 months for them to roll out a new software update. And then we need to wait X time for it to be rolled out on all their devices. If some of you are public servants, you know that that if you have a finished system where everything works, your politicians do not think that you should sit around and wait for 6 months for it to be rolled out and be installed on all devices. And that is also what we saw in Denmark. I'll get into that in 2 minutes. So yes, I'll be brief on this one. During our project, we of course ran into Ronan has wrote challenges here. I would say difficulties, but okay, I'm fine with challenges. We ran into different challenges during the way. We suddenly, for a lot of reasons, we had to change platform. Thank God, it didn't go bad. It didn't. It actually did. It worked all together perfectly. Yes, and as we have talked about, we needed to start a completely new CAPDK definition. We found out that is the way to do it. You have to make your own CAP 1-2 definition in your country, as Ronan said, and we also found out during the project that DEMA isn't anymore. DEMA was a part of the military. We have just been separated from the military, but there are cybersecurity guys, and then there are military cybersecurity guys, and those are totally different species of human beings. So that is a challenge that we faced as well. But all in all, we made it. Yes. And then, as I said before, I would like to dwell a little bit on this cooperation with Germany, which isn't as big a surprise as it could sound. For many years, we've had a kind of a gentleman agreement with our two closest neighbors, Germany and Sweden, that we send each other information when we test our warning systems, and it's very informal, and it's very down to earth. We write each other a couple of times a year, and then we disseminate it to all relevant authorities in our countries, that tomorrow or a week from now, our neighbors will be testing their warning systems, and you might hear it. So it's no biggie. So when our German colleagues had an EU BBK, had an EU project with connecting cross borders alerting systems, they contacted us just to hear how could it be done, and this and because we had this CAP format and this production system that produced a CAP 1-2 feed, it was actually very, very easy. We could provide them with our feed. Ronan actually could give them access to our feed, and then they could integrate it into their warning system in the northern part of Germany, which they have. So every time we send out a warning, it'll make a ping in their warning system as well. And every time the authorities in northern Germany send out a warning, we'll get a ping in the police warning system as well. It is not a complete warning, but it is just a notification that says, perhaps you should look at the event down here. Is it relevant to make a warning as well in our country? Yes.
Yeah, the workflow, of course, can be customized according to your needs.
Absolutely, and we've done this with our German colleagues, and it was very easy. And when our Swedish colleagues also get a cell broadcast system, which I think is on the table, we'll probably do the same with them, because it makes sense. So yes, we have used the system live all in all 7 times. We have also done some small tests live, but they're not counting in this. As Ronald said, we have done 2 nationwide tests, and the first one in May 2023 reached 65% of telephones in Denmark. I think the reason why it only reached 65% is it was a year when the MNOs were rolling back 3G, which we do not support, and we had this Apple rollout. They only started rolling out the version with our specifications a month before we tested. So those were the numbers for the first test. The second test, which we had this May, reached 89% of the phones, and I saw that my good colleague Patrick from the Netherlands is here somewhere, and I understand from him that 89% is actually a very fine number, and what we should something that we should expect. So yes, 89% of phones. We have had 5 operational activations over the last year, and yeah, flooding events and fires, and as it says on the slide here, 2 exact same fires in the exact same harbor, 2 different ships carrying exact same load. It's actually a very funny story if it wasn't tragic. Yes. One of the interesting things with the activations are that the Danish people are used to sirens, the rooftop sirens, which can be heard over great distances. They're not used to these cell broadcast messages yet, and one of the things that we have observed is that people outside the warning area are actually very anxious because they haven't been warned. So there's a kind of a task here that we need to educate the people that if you are not warned, it is because you are not in danger. Yeah, I think we'll struggle with that for a couple of years. Yes, and now we're looking to see what can we do next. As part of our tender, we try to think big and see how can we use a warning system like this. So what we thought about at the time were integration with this rooftop sirens. We know that it is possible to do automated voice calling, automated alert sources, different places, and yes, as one suggested, why didn't we have an SMS gateway as well? And we tried to write these in with our requirements as options, and even though we haven't gotten to them, we might get to them eventually. We don't know. We'll have to see what kind of money we have, what kind of priorities we have. But yeah, we're not finished working on our warning system just yet. Yes. So one thing I would like to emphasize in this is the words are vendor selection is crucial. I would actually say vendor relationship is crucial. One of the things that we from DEMA and the National Police has put a lot of effort in, and I hope that it shows from my and Ronald's relationship, is that we actually have relationships, that we actually do want to do good by each other. Of course, I'm not a fool. I know it's a business relationship, but it is a little bit more than that. And I actually think that that is part of what I call a success today. And that's it from me.
Okay, just if I can just add that after working together for 2 years, DEMA has decided to take Uti Marco as the service manager for the system, which is not very usual. Usually you do maintenance only, but here for DEMA, we do the day-to-day communication with all the MNOs, system monitoring 24/7, fault analysis, and of course we need to deal with the party that needs to correct a problem, periodical reporting, and this is an ongoing communication, and this is, I would say, a Catholic marriage, which we are very happy about. Thank you very much. Thank you, Bjarne.
Thank you, Ronan and Bjarne. It was super interesting, really. Thanks so much. We are a little late, but we have many questions. So we'll try to run through these questions, if that's okay. We'll run now for the questions. I'm going to read them from the Q&A session. First one was, how do you ensure cell sectors are not misconfigured, which could cause emergency alert to be inaccurately sent to the wrong people?
Yeah, I will take that one. This is actually a CBC function, not a CBE function. So what you need to do is you need to align your CBC in a way that every cell is used as a sector. So you define the cell or the sector azimuth and the angle, and that's the way that you avoid any overlapping between the cells. And of course, you can do DBGF later on, which is a device-based geofencing, which utilizes the device GPS together with cell brokers to get even higher accuracy.
Thank you, Ronan, very clear. The next question is the alert system also sent for automotive users, not only smartphone?
That's actually a bit of a trick question, isn't it? Because I think that a lot of smartphones are also automotive users. But I would say that the right answer to that question is it is sent to all devices that have the right radio. So it's a non-answer.
Thank you. Yes, it's not an easy one,
No.
Thank you. Another question was, you mentioned in CI/CD slide that software OS upgrades can be done without bringing the service down. Does it mean you upgrade side by side, or there is in-service upgrade method?
No, currently we do it side by side in Denmark.
Clear answer. Straightforward. Thank you. Does Denmark support sending the message in multiple languages?
That's a great question as well, because actually Apple and Google send multiple language messages in completely different ways. So it's a completely difficult and no, the answer is easy. No, we do not. We send out a Danish version with some English text. We don't send out multiple languages.
It's very interesting. I'd love to hear more on the other side about how Apple and Google dispatch it differently on the languages side as well. Thanks for a clear answer. Greg, I think eventually the answer was sorry, you wanted to add, Ronan?
Yeah, I will answer Greg because now I understand this question.
Yeah.
So, Greg, you're absolutely right. All the cells has to be updated in the system, and usually this is again a CBC function. What we usually do, we are getting a periodical update on the network to our CBC. It can be done over API or FTP or any kind of communication. But the important thing that at least once a day, sometimes more, we are getting from the network, from the mobile network operators, all the cell data, and this is how the CBC can actually translate the polygon into a list of cells.
Very clear. Thank you, Ronan. Next question is, what are your current plans with the Galileo solution? Will this solution...
You missed one, Gary. There's something about Netherlands.
No, but it was not a question. It was a nice praise.
Okay.
That's why I didn't read it. It was a great praise for your work. Close to the 93% in the Netherlands. And Patrick said you can be more than happy with 89%. What are your current plans with the Galileo solution? Will this solution, as proposed, work for Denmark?
I think Patrick knows the answer for that one. But no, the current plans for Galileo, I think, are unfinished. I don't think that they are not very operational as they are right now. But it is a project that we look a lot to and are very interested in. But I think it needs a little bit more work.
I think I can shed more light here. So usually, according to the European law, Galileo must be supported by all devices that entering the continent. The thing is that there's still no commercial agreement between Qualcomm and the EU. So in order to avoid this obstacle, then the devices do support Galileo or satellite communication, but this feature is not yet enabled. The current expectation is that it will be enabled by the end of 2025. And the communication with the Galileo system is as usual, is done over a CAP, and we already started to do it for our other customers in Europe.
Thank you, Ronan. Any other pressing question? Anyone? Your last chance for last question.
No, actually, my last chance. I mean, we put on the at the end slide, we put our emails, and if let me just fetch it, and you can see it here. You can approach Biane, you can approach me with any question you may have after the session.
Yeah, and maybe Sanna, what we can do is, Ronan, you can write both email addresses on the chat while we go for the next steps of the presentation as well, to make sure people get it. That would be nice if you could write it on the chat. If you can send message to everyone in particular, let us know in case you can't send message to everyone, to tag everyone.
No, I can't.
You can't. So Sanna will put it on the side. I'm guessing copy paste your address and put them on the chat here as well. And they will be available also after the meeting with the recording. All right. Also, well, thank you both. Before we close, I'd like to give the floor to Sanna. She has a little presentation to give you as well about our next activities. Sanna, if you can proceed.
Thank you, Gary. So just for the end, I would like to remind you that there will be a survey after this webinar when you close it. So please do take a minute to fill it in. It really helps us to make our webinars better. Then we have some webinars coming up still for this fall, which you can see on the screen. We have 112 in Ukraine next week, this same time on Tuesday. And then in December, we have enhancing cardiac emergency responses in Europe's rural areas. So you can see all our webinars on our website. So make sure to check that out. We might have some new ones coming still for this fall. Then we have some events coming up. So our conference registration is now open for the INA 2025 conference, which will be in April in Helsinki, Finland. So take a look at our website to learn more about that, as well as our upcoming members seminar on NG112 and AI days, where one day will be reserved for NG112 and the other one for AI in emergency communications, and that will be in December in Spain. So thank you, everyone, and I will give the last word to Gary.
Thank you, Sanna. I posted while you were speaking and presenting our next activity, I posted the email addresses on the chat as well. Thanks again to our speakers. It was a really interesting webinar. I was actually chatting while you were presenting to my colleague Benoit that this could be nice to reproduce at the INA conference in case we have some slots available. I'm not sure we have slots available, but I'm hoping you'll be at INA 2025 in Helsinki and maybe reproduce that same presentation to even a wider audience. It was really, really interesting. Well, thanks again. Thank you, Sanna, for coordinating the webinar and for all of you for your participation. Thanks again to our wonderful presenters. And we look forward to seeing you again very soon. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.